Hey you guys, it's Ham. I'm gonna be doing another sketchbook tour. I was originally gonna show you guys my watercolor sketchbook, but then I checked that one and some of the pages are still bare, so we're just gonna go with this one. This is actually older than the last sketchbook that I showed you. I started this on October 2018 and ended July of last year. Please forgive my voice. I had a very bad cold a couple of days ago and I'm better now. It's just my voice doesn't think so. So let's get started. It starts off pretty slow. These are some portrait sketches I did for Inktober. What I thought was Inktober, but I didn't actually follow any of the prompts. And then this is, I think, something I added after. Most of the reference photo I got from these ones are from Pinterest. This one is also from Pinterest. I did these with my red pens and then went over the details with my black G-Tech pen. I really loved using those two pens together because, oh my god, because the red is just a nice, almost transparent kind of pen that when it's combined with the black, really opaque fine pen, the contrast between them would just make those details pop out more. That's why I loved using those pens together. I really liked how I draw this ear for some reason. My drawings of ears are notoriously bad, but for this one I really liked how it turned out. And then this one is using the same techniques as the other ones, but then I decided to go over it with some of my colored pencils. It did not work out, but I learned not to do that anymore. Just these colors don't go well together. And this one is just using the same techniques as the others. The same as this one. This is one of my favorites, but I did have a lot of mistakes with this one. As you can see, I went over it with my white Posca pen and also did some strokes for the hair, so I felt like it was cheating a little bit. But yeah, this is still one of my favorites. And then this one I never finished. And then these are the last ones that I did for Inktober. I also loved how this final one turned out. I did spend a lot more time with the shading on her face and just the shading for this one overall. It's because I thought it's the final one, so why not? But I feel like when compared to the earlier ones that are more raw with the shading like this, it just loses some of its charm, I guess, because I liked how these earlier ones turned out more than this one. So I feel like with these portraits, sometimes it's just better to just go for it and not overthink the shading. Just go with what feels like is natural. This is when I started to really experiment with all the materials I had. My mother-in-law left some of her Sharpies with me and I decided that I should try to draw something with them. This is just me trying to get a feel for how they would blend together. Obviously they don't blend very well at all, and I decided for my next try to see if it would work better with a lighter color, and it did. And with some of the shadings, mostly with pencils on top of it. I really liked how this one turned out. I don't know why I never did any more Sharpies and graphite work. I think I went over some of these lines with the Sharpies, and that's how they sort of melted into the page, and I really like that. Yeah, I might actually try to do this technique again because I really liked how this one turned out. This one I also did with markers. So after doing these two, I decided to do some more research and look into more videos on marker art. And I saw some videos where they blended their markers really well. And I didn't notice before that those were Copic markers, so obviously they aren't gonna blend the same as Sharpies, but I did still try to get some blending in there with the yellow and the green. This is actually 3 colors for her sweater. I did try to do something different with the skin. I just wanted this whole thing to be very dark so that it pops out of the page. And then the details for her pants, because everything was just so dark, I did with white ink, I think. This one I think is my favorite that I did with Sharpies. At around this time, I was already figuring out how I can make the streakiness of these markers work. Try to incorporate them into the artwork. Like the strokes I did for her clothes follow how the folds would usually go. And then over here where the ground is flat, I colored it in straight like this, so it just follows the contours of the flat ground she's sitting on. And then a lot of her face and her white shirt is blended in with colored pencils, because I wouldn't be able to get these subtle shifts in color with my Sharpies. And then there's also some yellow over here, so it looks like the glare of the sun is peeking through the window. I even liked how the lines on the background look really sloppy. I just really liked how this one turned out. And this one I never finished. This is a V of BTS. This one I did finish. I really liked the colors I used for this one, but I feel like the proportions are a little bit wrong. I feel like her head might be a little too big for her torso and her arm, like too big for her body. But I did like the coloring on this one. There was a lot of colored pencil work over the markers, so you don't even see the strokes I did for the markers. I don't like that. The reason this one worked is because you can tell that this was done with Sharpies, and then this one just lost all of that. It just looks like a colored pencil piece, and I don't like that. This one I tried somewhat middle ground for the last two. I worked in some of the strokes to follow the floor, but on hers it's blended a lot with colored pencils. I don't know, I feel like it had the same problems as this last one, when it doesn't look like Sharpie drawing anymore. But I did like how this window turned out. So it's fan art I never finished. This one I really liked. These are some sketches I did with initially just my red pen, and then I started to go over some of the shadings with my pencil. I really like the combination of the red pen and the gray pencils. I just really liked how this page turned out. This one too, I just don't think the proportions are perfect. Maybe his head is a little too big for the perspective I had in mind. This is just a little sketch I did with my mechanical pencil. I don't think I would attempt to do a full mechanical pencil piece again after this one. I just don't enjoy it. Wait, I actually think I did this one with mechanical pencils too, but I think the hair I did with a darker graphite. Something's up with his hand right here. I think this finger might be bent a little weird, or it's just the lighting. I did try to follow the reference photo as much as I can, but I feel like something's still up with this hand. I don't like it, but I did like how I shaded his face. Reference photo for this one also came from Pinterest. This one is just disturbing. It reminds me of The Omen. This is supposed to be something very whimsical and cute. I overdid his eyes, but I did like the foreshortening on this piece. I just overdid his eyes after. This was done with watercolors actually, but I think it was done after I did the pen sketches in, because I know for sure that these weren't the first watercolors piece that I did on this sketchbook. And then this one is just, I was just really bad at painting skin, even though I had like colored pencils with a lot of skin tones. I never used them, so I tried to on this one, and then everything else is done with my graphite pencil. And these ones are just sketches of the same girl. This one I liked more, but I didn't get to fit her into the whole page, so I did her again, and when I did the details in, I made her head too big, so still a good exercise. And then these ones are some exercises I did while I was watching some of Proko's videos. This one is just girls I saw on Pinterest, so I really like the way they were both sitting down. I'm pretty sure the watercolors on this one were added after too, because I remember this being just a red and black piece when I posted it. This one was gonna be my next attempt at Sharpie artworks again, but I ran out of inks for my Sharpie, so I never finished this because it was too hard while I was starting it, so I just decided to abandon it as well. These are just some photos I did because I realized before all of my sketches were focused on the face, and I really tried to break out of that. So I tried to draw some poses that didn't show the face too much, or where the face isn't the focus of the photo. So I did some of these. I really liked how all of these turned out. I just wish they were bigger so they would fill up the page better, but I really liked how this three turned out. I really like this one too because I liked the red pen and the pencil combination so much. I tried to do a portrait with just those. I really liked how this turned out. I think I want to do more now that I'm looking at this because I feel like I can improve on this now. And then this one is a fail. I overdid his face with the black pen that I had, black G-Tag pen that I had. And I mentioned this in my last sketchbook tour. I really have a love-hate relationship with that black pen because it's just so consistent and so opaque that it's very hard to get some varieties in transparency for shading with that pen. So I should have known not to use that for shading. I should have just done the red, but I didn't, and so I overworked this piece. I also think the glasses sit awkwardly on his face for this one. This one, I swear, was a good drawing. This was just a pencil sketch that I did combined with my red and my black pens. And then I decided after the fact to add in some green watercolors. I think I was really just trying to get to know my watercolors back then. And I ended up ruining a lot of my drawings. But yeah, these are just some figure sketches I did. One I did with my Sharpies again. I don't like how this one turned out, but I really want to paint this picture with acrylics or even gouache because I really liked the lighting on this photo. These are some swatches that I did because I bought some more Sharpies after I ran out of some of the ones that my mother-in-law gave me. I really liked how these two turned out initially before I went over them again with colored pencils, because it looks like they're both submerged in water. I just really liked how this two looked before. I even liked how this one turned out even after the colored pencils. I don't know how I got this look for this. I think it may be the pencils giving it a grayish cast, but I really liked how the color combination I did for this. This was my very first attempt at doing skin tones with just the primary colors. I think this one was very successful. I really liked how the very dark parts are just blue. I mean on his face and on his hands. Obviously these ones are done with a darker pencil, but I really liked how this one turned out. The tattoos turned out looking good. It actually wasn't chest blue. I did some different colors to draw some of his ink in, and I think I achieved what I wanted to achieve when I initially did this. So yeah, this is one of my more successful ones. This is me riding the high from the success of this one. This whole piece is just done with 3 colors, but I also think that like my Sharpie art, that it lost some of its charm. You can't even see that this was done with 3 colors. I mean, I'll try to show you guys. You can if you really zoom into the drawing, but it just lost some of the things that make this one look interesting. So yeah, that was another lesson on keeping things simple, but I really liked how her necklace turned out. I'm really bad at drawing jewelry, so this one, I'm really proud of this little one. And these are some sketches I never finished. I really like this tiny one that I did. This one actually looks like this. This isn't me ruining it after I was done with the drawing. This really just looks like this. Like I said, my shadings with that black G-Tech pen are never successful, and this is another testament to that. I just think it looks too overworked. So yeah, I didn't quite like how this one turned out though, but I really liked how her hair looked after. I might actually like the bleeding on this piece more than the actual artwork. And these 3 are just some very quick sketches I did with my new Sharpies. I tried to do the same techniques as the last time, where the strokes would follow the contours of the clothes. I think these are successful because I didn't overthink them too much. I just really quickly filled them in with color, and in the end they worked out. And this one is a full marker piece before I went over his face with some yellow watercolors. And then this one I loved. I really loved how this one turned out. I tried to get the shading to follow the contours of her face, and because I really liked how there was light falling on both sides of her face, that the shadows are just focused on the center. So I tried to exaggerate that by lining the shading with my red pen, and I really liked the results. I've been trying to replicate it, but I think it requires a very specific kind of reference photo for that. And these are some pencil sketches that I never finished. This one is a redo of an artwork that I did before to show my progress, but I wish I used a better subject to show my progress with, because this one I just think it's a little too flat. And then this one is of a reference photo that I love so much. She had a white streak on her hair. I think it was from a birthmark. I've been looking for this photo for a while because I wanted to redo it. It's unfinished, so it doesn't look very good, but I really want a redo of this reference photo. This one, I didn't know that I already drew this one. I tried to do as many hand practices as I can, because at the time I would just avoid reference photo that had their hands showing altogether. So I tried to get over my fear of that. So yeah, this is how they turned out. I like that combination a lot. This is Draw This in Your Style challenge by... I love the original so much that I had to redo it. I don't like how mine doesn't give too much attention to the bird that was draping over her. I think I was more focused on the emotion on her face. If I could redo it, I would exaggerate the strokes of her hair so it's clear that she's actually sitting on a bed of her own hair, and then I would add details to the bird around her. This was again another attempt at me trying to do some shadings with that pen. I think this time it worked, just because I wanted the shadows to be so severe on this side of her face. I feel like it worked in that way. I just wished I did the same amount of effort on her face as I did on the rest of her body. I feel like that would have translated better. This one is another try of me adding some colored pencils with my graphite pencils, but this one I tried to do something different. It was blue. The original photo was mostly like this, so that's why I chose it. I actually did end up adding some yellow to her lip to make it look more three-dimensional. I also liked how I did her hair on this piece. This is yet again another try with the G-Tech pen that I don't like. I think the results are the same. I didn't do any progress with that pen on this one. I really like the connection of the two of them, but I guess that's more of a kudos to the reference photo than my artwork. I believe these are some practice sketches I did with Reddit Gets Drawn. This might be one of my first Reddit Gets Drawn drawings. And then this one I initially did with my green pen. This was me just starting out with my green pen, and as I was doing it, I ran out of ink. I actually bought that pen that day, and I ran out before I could even finish this piece, so it definitely taught me a lot about choosing my pens. This one I tried to do a different kind of combination. This one was watercolor with my graphite. I don't like how this one turned out, but I think I did more attempts after this one. This one is one of my favorite pieces in this whole sketchbook. Not a lot of people liked this, just going off of the response that I was getting, but I really liked how the colors I did for her skin turned out. This is just again me with my graphite and my orange colored pencil. But now that I'm looking at it, I know how to fix it. I think the banana might be too yellow. I think a good way to fix this might be to go over this with the same orange pencil that I did for his skin, so to make it not show up too much, because I do not want the banana to be the center of this piece. And this is me trying to work out my Sharpies, trying to see if I can go over some shading with my pens over it. I think this one looks good. It just isn't finished and it's so small, but it was a good study. This one was inspired one of my favorite artists on Instagram. I'll just edit his name into the video, but yeah, I really love all of his artworks. I love how the shading on his portraits look, and I tried to replicate it. I just don't think I did so well, and in the end I think it's just his own thing. Even if I do it as perfectly as he does, I don't think it would be something I want to imitate altogether. This one was a sketch I did of a book character that I was reading. It's a very dark book, so I'm not sure, so I don't know if you guys will recognize it. And then this one is me trying to combine the strokes for this one with me doing the primary colors still, and ultimately I just abandoned it. And this one I think is a more successful version of this one. I finished this one more, and I do like how this one turned out, but yeah, in the end it was just a study. I just don't think I would be able to pull it off. This one was my very first attempt at combining my colored pencils with my brush pen. I actually bought my brush pen way before I tried them, because before this I was very intimidated with using new art supplies, so I just thought I would just go for it, and I really liked how this one turned out. I actually used 3 different colors for this. The yellow I think I did for her proportions initially, and then the red I used for her body underneath, and then the blue for her outfit after. These are just anatomy studies that I did. I tried to draw the skeleton on this page so I can have it as like a reference for when I need to go back, and I ended up using it for this. I did the skeleton first and then did the body over it. It looks really silly, but again, it was a good study for me. I might actually do this again. I did end up doing it again on this one too. This one is something that's unfinished. This is made with my colored pencils. I think this is when I really tried to see what I can do with my watercolors on this sketchbook, because it just wasn't working, me trying to get used to my watercolors so much with my watercolor paper. So I tried to see if using it on this sketchbook would take the pressure off of that initial fear of using my watercolors, and it did. And then this one isn't finished. I did this with watercolors and then went over it with my Sharpies. This one is one of my favorite pieces. This is when I really got into my watercolors. For this one, this is the pen that I hate so much. I did the watercolor washes first, and then did the details in with my G-Tech pen. I really like those two together. The very consistent opaque lines from the G-Tech pen that I would usually don't like, combined with the transparent washes of the watercolors. I really like that combination. And these ones are just some sketches that I did. This one is for Reddit Gets Drawn. I'm pretty sure this is one of the newer pieces. I just drew on this page because this one was blank. This is one of my favorite sketches that I did from imagination, because I don't do a lot of that. This one I think was a good attempt. Then these ones are just some different variations of this one. I tried to make the line work from the pen a lot cleaner. I tried to see if I liked that more, but I actually do like the messy lines on this one better. I just think it has more personality to it. And then this one is a sketch I did with the same pen that I always tell myself not to use for shading in portraits, and I did, and it ended up as good as my other attempts with that pen. This one I really liked this spread, because after doing these and me finding out that I don't like the cleaner lines so much, I tried to do the watercolors with the messier lines this time, and I confirmed that I like this direction more. So yeah, I feel like this spread was more successful, and these are some more attempts with that technique. And then I really liked how the camo turned out on her pants for this one. And these are again some sketches with that technique. This is me trying to do different poses. This one I messed up after I took a photo of my drawing. I messed up with the face, but I really liked how the bottom part looks. I combined my watercolors with the messy line work from my G-Tack, and then I did some more strokes with my brush pen. And then this one was also again me doing shading with that pen that I don't like, but I did like the color combinations I did. I think the watercolors that I used for this sketchbook was my Sakura Koi, and I really like that watercolor so much. This one is Kate Mara in the movie Ex Machina. Oh no, I think it was Morgan. Again, I really like that movie so much, and someone suggested that I draw her, so I just did that really quick with some watercolors and my black pen. This one is something I never finished, and this whole spread is me really getting into the groove with my watercolors and my brush pen, still trying to see which style would work best with my brush pens. This is just also really fun. I really like the colors on both of these pieces. The only color that's a little bit of a distraction is the ones that I used for her face. I think the orange might be too bright for the rest of the color palette, but other than that, I really loved how this whole spread looked. I even loved the textures I did for the backgrounds on this one. These are just some more figure practice. This one is another colored pencil and pen combo that I did. This one I actually think is very cute. It's just watercolors that I finished with my black pen. I was also trying to see if these two colors would work together for another piece that I was making. This one is just another pencil piece because I missed doing portraits with just my pencil. These are some girls that I saw on Pinterest. I really love that they're wearing different things. This one is my favorite. I like where I chose to do the watercolors on this one. I believe I overdid it with this third one. I'm really sorry about my neighbor's dogs. And because it's really hard to layer watercolors on this sketchbook, it makes it really difficult to do these darker colors. But I still really loved how these all turned out. This is a drawing I did for someone on Reddit Gets Drawn. And then this is line work that I did for my very first, I think, digital art that I colored on my phone. This one I really liked. This is also for Reddit Gets Drawn. I really liked the pen work I did on this one. And then I even liked the watercolors. And then this whole spread is from people who were posted on Reddit Gets Drawn. This one is my favorite out of all of them. I just really liked how I shaded his face in. And then this one I think is really cute. I colored her in with my watercolors after. This is also another spread with watercolors and my black pen. I really liked how tall they all looked on this piece, and how the watercolors are subtle but strategic in showing the folds of the clothes. And then this one is one of my final drawings for Reddit Gets Drawn. It's just something I did with my pencil. And then this one is the last drawing in this sketchbook. It's also my favorite. This was done with colored pencils and my brush pen. I really like the color combination for this one. Blue and orange is probably one of my favorite colors together. I just really liked how cool she looked on the photo, so that's why I decided to draw her. So yeah, that is it for this sketchbook. There's a lot of pages, so I hope you guys were interested until the very end. But yeah, that is it for this one. I will be showing you my watercolor sketchbook when I'm done with it for my next sketchbook tour. I will be going back to my regular schedule after this one though. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon.